Batman has arguably one of the deepest and most revered rogues galleries in comic book history. Characters who have been rich in stories that have been told and some that haven't been told on the big screen. Characters like Poison Ivy or even Professor Pig are ones that I definitely would want to see done correctly in the movies or in the series. The recent announcement though from James Gunn will be bringing attention to one such character like the others being written by Mike Flanagan, the mastermind behind The Haunting of Hill House and the Dr. Sleep movie. He's writing and about to take one of Batman's strangest and most terrifying villains and turn him into something you never expected. We're talking about Clayface. But not just the shape-shifting crook from Gotham, we're talking about a full-on horror reimagining. This could be the scariest DC movie ever made and put to screen, and you know what? This might be exactly what DC needs right now. Let's talk about why Mike Flanagan's Clayface could be a game-changing film. All right, first things first, who exactly is Clayface? Most people know him as the shapeshifting character from the Batman Arkham City games, if you played those, or his most prominent appearance in the OG Batman animated series. But he's actually had multiple versions over the years, probably around 4. The original Clayface Basil Carlo was a washed up horror actor who snapped when he was replaced in a remake of his own movie. Then you have the other prominent version being Matt Hagen, a treasure hunter who was mutated into this melting monstrosity thanks to a mysterious chemical that gives him his abilities. Each version though shares one thing in common, the fact that he's a man who lost himself, like literally. Now put that concept in the hands of Mike Flanagan and you're cooking with grease. Now, that all being said, there's 2 other versions are cool characters, but I don't think they're really super relevant for this film. Like, I don't think people will make a movie over the other 2, but I could be wrong. Moving forward though into more Mike Flanagan and what he has to offer, if you watch The Haunting of Hill House, The Fall of the House of Usher, or the Dr. Sleep movie, you already know Mike Flanagan doesn't do just horror, but he takes characters who are broken, haunted, and full of trauma, and he makes you feel every ounce of the pain and fear that these characters have. The Fall of the House of Usher is one of the best horror pieces I've seen in years. If you haven't seen it, please do yourself a favor and go watch it. Anyway, besides the emotional turmoil, there are 2 things I feel like Mike Flanagan does amazingly well that are a perfect fit for this movie. First and foremost would be body horror. Second would be time dilation. If you aren't familiar with the terms, I'll give a quick little bit of explanation. See, body horror is a term that a lot of horror veterans are probably familiar with. It's for the most part a subgenre of horror that is focused on seeing the human body being transformed or destroyed in a disgusting or cool way. One of the most prevalent examples would be like OG movies like The Fly, or if you watch any of the Saw movies in the Saw franchise, those are a really good example. Big Mike though has done this in an amazing way. One in which, or the most prevalent examples would be, you have to blur it out because I don't want YouTube to clap this video, but one he did on Netflix called Gerald's Game. Long story short, this woman in this movie is being handcuffed to bed, and the movie leads to a scene where she has to peel her wrist skin off in order to get out of these handcuffs. It's not super gory in comparison to the other films that I previously mentioned, but it definitely is effective because he makes you feel the pain that she's going through. Time dilation is a more complicated term, one that I'm not even sure most people outside of me use in this context. The time dilation is a scientific concept that states that time passes at different rates for different observers. Now in science, there are factors like gravitational fields that dictate whatever that is, but I use this whenever I talk about movies that always play with the timeline perspective. In an effort to clarify, let me give you guys another recommendation from a guy, Mike Flanagan. A movie by the name of Oculus is what I want to recommend to you. It's a classic that features a mirror that exclusively plays with perception of time for any character that is near the mirror. And again, I'm probably not correctly using this concept, but it makes sense in my head when I use it, so oh well. Now that we know a little bit more about how big Mike Flanagan gets down as a writer and director, y'all try to take a moment, breathe, and try to see the vision of all the possibilities this movie could possibly have. Body horror nightmare where a man is losing his identity piece by piece. It could be a psychological thriller where he doesn't know if he's himself anymore or just a collection of stolen faces. It could be a tragic monster story where the audience actually feels something for this thing, even as it does horrifying things. Or this could be DC's version of The Fly, but with a deeper emotional core. Or this movie could be similar to the new Oscar award-winning movie The Substance, a movie that involves a story of a character that's very similar to Basil Carlo Clayface. The movie features an actress who's past her prime who takes this substance to become a younger, more vibrant version of herself and become a superstar again. but things, you know, with her spiral into this nightmare. And if we could get a Clayface movie in any of these styles of films, I will literally cry tears of fucking joy. Like, I need this movie in my life. Now, what storylines could be inspirations for a Clayface movie? See, every great comic book movie usually has some run or issue that it takes inspiration from. Well, there's one that I think would be perfect for this film, and if Flanagan has any desire to touch on the different versions of Clayface and iterations at one time, there's an older 4-issue series by the name of the Mud Pack that is pretty much a story involving all 4 different versions of the Clayface being led by the first Clayface, Basil Karlo. Basil was essentially using the other to try to make himself become the ultimate Clayface. Now, a lot of this story involves Batman, but this story could essentially be Clayface's mental stability being shattered and him becoming multiple people through the different roles that he would play in the movies. So he could also have the opinion of horror not being as good as it was when he was at his peak of an actor, similar to the Mudpack storyline. This could all build up to this like big reveal of Basil being a true monster and an ultimate monster. And there's a lot of different directions you could take the story, but I'm hoping if, you know, Big Mike decides to use this as an inspiration, that this is the direction that he tries to go with this story, because it's just kind of sick to have this character trying to play different versions of himself and, you know, just playing on the factor of him being a horror movie actor that's washed up. I would love to see that thing, especially with him being focused as a horror actor. I think this could be amazing. See, let's talk about where this movie will more than likely fit on the timeline of DC stuff. See, we have 2 main paths you can go down: Elseworld films and the Gods and Monsters timeline. Elseworld is what gave us movies like the first Joker, that was great, and the Matt Reeves Batman. They're, you know, darker, more gritty and grounded takes on the iconic characters. See, this will be where all the one-off stories that won't be in the main Gods and Monsters timeline will sit at. You know, we want to tell a story without it having to affect the main, you know, continuity that they have going on here. And I think that's a great way to tell it. So the Gods and Monsters timeline is essentially what I said it was going to be before, a mainstay where James Gunn is going to be unveiling his new Superman movie. And we're going to see a lot of the bigger things that everybody's going to be raving about for the most part. It's going to be connected together in, you know, in a similar fashion to the MCU. See, the separation of timelines to me is genius because it leaves so much room to have creative and innovative stories with characters. And it doesn't have as many restrictions as the MCU stuff will, where certain shows and movies require different versions of scripts because approval is required for certain characters or concepts to be used, because you can't mess up the main timeline. All the drama with the Mephisto stuff from the Agatha All Along series is a prime example of what I mean by that. This can lead to projects feeling disjointed or even having pacing issues and causing things to be cut or added in the writing phase or as well as the editing floor. There's like a lot of stuff going on, and it just leads to some projects as being this big mess of blah that could have been better. If this Clayface movie works, this could spark an amazing trend of DC movies and shows capitalizing on the groundwork of well-received projects that we've already gotten, like the Matt Reeves Batman or the following sequel series, The Penguin, that followed it up, and even the first Joker movie. These movies and shows can be dark and gritty and stories that are detective-driven action or horror-centric. These are the perfect next steps to me, and I can imagine an era of DC where making standalone horror thrillers about the scariest characters that aren't just in Batman's Rogues Gallery, but DC characters as a whole. Mr. Freeze Noir series, a Scarecrow psychological series, or Professor Pig slasher film, a Spectre poltergeist film. The possibilities are endless. Like, literally, man. This movie has potential to spark a lot of stuff. And again, a lot of this stuff that I'm saying in this video is a lot of happy thinking from a guy that loves horror movies. I really want to see a lot more horrified versions of these characters, and even if it's not horror, just more in-depth experimental stuff. I don't want to see the same movie over and over again. And again, although I love the MCU and all the things that it's brought to my life and all the different types of movies we've got that I've enjoyed that they put out, there are a lot of movies that I have not enjoyed because they were the cookie cutter formula. They never really tried to do anything crazy out there except for stuff like the Eternals, in my opinion. And again, a lot of people didn't like that because maybe they felt like it was doing too much. I thought it was a great movie, and honestly feel like it's going to be something that people will feel differently on down the line. But all that set aside, something like a Clayface horror movie directed by a horror director who puts a lot of time and care into his craft is something that just makes me really excited to see. Now, the thing that I really put the nail in the coffin for me is them announcing who the actual director for the film will be, because at this point, all we know is that Mike Flanagan is writing it. hopefully, you know, I'll pray that they don't find anybody and they just let Mike Flanagan direct it as well, because I think that'll be great to have a writer and a director kind of be the same person. Maybe that makes the vision better, but I don't know. I'm hoping we get a good director though. I just want to see more stuff like this. The horror fan in me is screaming for tears of joy, and then the DC fanboy in me is also screaming for tears of joy. I really want to see DC be great, and I think that this Clayface horror movie is something that can really help lead in that proper direction. So please, James Gunn, Mike Flanagan, do your motherfucking thing. Put your foot all the way in this thing, and let's have this movie be something amazing. I really do think this is something that needs to happen. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the possibilities of this movie, or is this even a movie that you want? This has been Captain Diesel, and if you guys want to stay tapped in with more of what I have to offer in the different types of videos that I do, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button and the bell to keep kept up on everything I have going on. I love to speak to you guys, whether that's here in the comment section or in the link below, where you can find the link to my Discord, where myself and other people just like yourself will be around building a dope community of people. Thank you guys so much for watching this video as a whole and getting to this point. My name is Captain Diesel. This is Captain Diesel's Dojo, and I will see you guys next time. Peace. Be good people.